Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton Agenda Awani. Seperti saya janjikan, 2 minggu lebih ke mulut politik, kita sudah letakkan penganalisis politik dan juga ahli-ahli politik sendiri. Tetapi mula beberapa episod lalu, kita mula memasukkan pandangan masyarakat sivil kerana ini bukan sahaja tentang politik tetapi tentang Malaysia. Malaysia baharu bukan sahaja tentang politik baru tetapi juga tentang aspirasi masyarakat yang inginkan mobiliti sosial ekonomi tetapi juga dengan hak-hak yang dipertahankan. Dalam konteks itu, saya amat berbangga kerana saya dapat 2 orang yang cukup hebat untuk membincangkan bersama saya tentang negara hukum ataupun rule of law, reformasi institusi-institusi yang berkaitan untuk melaksanakan hak-hak kita, memastikan bahawa ia terjaga, terlindung, malah dipraktikkan dengan mekarnya. Paling hampir dengan saya, Datuk Mah Wengkai. Terima kasih. Tahniah, saya rasa sekali lagi, masih lagi Pesuruhjaya bagi Suhakam, Suruhanjaya Hak Asasi Manusia. Saudara Ragunas Kesavan, saya tak berjumpa beliau sejak beliau bertarung dengan YB Said Saddiq di Universiti Malaya. Saya ingat lagi, mantan Presiden Majlis Peguam Malaysia. Saya ingin terus, kerana tidak pernah lagi kedua-dua individu hebat ini bersama saya ketika krisis politik yang berlangsung baru-baru ini. Your quick takes, pandangan sepintas lalu tentang apa yang berlaku, Datuk dulu.
Ya, terima kasih Cik Kamarul.
Sama-sama.
Thanks for inviting.
Yes.
I think my focus will be on the constitutional developments that have taken place dengan izin. Is that we had a quick changeover of government. In fact, it happened so quickly in the blink of an eye, and everybody was caught by surprise, especially orang ramai, the rakyat. And the question now is the postponement of Parliament from the 9th of March, which is supposed to be on Monday, to the 18th of May. And I think the question that is being debated is whether or not that postponement is actually valid, whether there are arguments on both sides, whether it is constitutional. But that being said, I think what is very important is that we must come to a firm landing on who has the majority to form the government and to take us forward.
It's like Article 40 to 43.
Yes.
Siapa yang mempunyai kepercayaan majoriti Dewan Rakyat.
Yeah.
Saudara Ragunas, sepintas lalu.
Well, pada saya kemelut politik ini bukannya satu perkara yang luar biasa di mana-mana negara yang mempraktikkan sistem demokrasi berparlimen sudah tentu ada perbezaan pendapat, perbezaan in terms of direction.
Okay.
Dan apa yang maybe untuk dari segi Malaysia is something that we have not ever seen before in many years. We have had a very stable one party government for many years. Ever since the kehilangan 2/3 majority 2008 dan seterusnya, then you can see that the political balance is very important lah. Jadi pada saya satu perkara yang which I take as a positive is this. While this whole thing was going on for 2 weeks and still going on, the people are very stable.
Okay.
Rakyat tidak, there's no riots. There's the people are carrying on their work, menjalankan tugas, pergi kerja, pergi pasar dan sebagainya, tak ada masalah. Masalah kita adalah pemimpin. Okay. Pemimpin yang kita telah lantik, memilih di parlimen, mereka lah yang menjadikan isu pada kita. Okay. Kalau if you can change within 20 bulan, your views, direction, principle dan sebagainya, what do you actually believe in? As a member of parliament.
Saya nak sambung terus ke situ, alang-alang pintu itu dah dibuka. Malaysia baru bukan hanya untuk ahli politik, tapi perubahan yang berlaku itu rakyat dahagakan reformasi, perubahan kualiti pada pelbagai perkara. Kita nak Malaysia jadi status negara maju tapi dengan kelestarian dan hak asasi terjaga misalnya. Kerajaan Pakatan Harapan menjanjikan pelbagai, malah telah memulakan beberapa langkah untuk memastikan perkara ini. Kini di mana kita berada dalam hal itu? Kerana kalau ada segmen masyarakat yang percaya padanya, kini mereka merasa seolah terhenti di situ. Saya bagi contoh. Peguam negara sudah pun letak jawatan. Orang nombor 1, walaupun kontroversi lantikanlah, orang kritik sana sini, tapi beliau menjalankan tugas. Tapi kita sudah diberitahu sendiri oleh saudari Latifah Koya bahawa beliau pun sudah menghantar notis peletakan jawatan. Jadi jika ini domino yang berterusan dan ini antara institusi yang paling dipertikaikan sama ada ia dulu telus atau tidak, menjalankan hukum hakam atau tidak. Jadi saya pulangkan balik poin itu, hujah itu kepada saudara Ragunan.
Well, berkenaan dengan reformasi institusi dan sebagainya, selepas PRU 14, manifesto Pakatan Harapan adalah jelas membawa perubahan, reformasi institusi-institusi dan pelantikan Tommy Thomas sebagai Peguam Negara dan juga Latifah Koya sebagai Chief Commissioner of MACC adalah dua pelantikan yang amat dialu-alukan sebagai orang yang dikatakan principle, values of rule of law, values of human rights, values of right and wrong dan sebagainya. Pelantikan penting dan dalam saya boleh katakan dalam 2 tahun tu 22 months banyak perubahan yang dilakukan walaupun tidak sebegitu ketara dan it's not easy to change within the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
But I think the problem also was that within Harapan, the reforms that they had promised had stalled. They did not. There was a massive slowdown in terms of reform. Mungkin itu juga adalah satu masalah.
Okay.
Apabila manifesto dipertikaikan, bila antara pemimpin kanan Harapan itself, manifesto yang dijanjikan dikatakan it's not practical, we don't need to do it, it's not cast in stone dan sebagainya. And I think the more important issue is that when you do not deliver on the manifesto, I think there was a little bit of kekecewaan pada rakyat.
Adakah ini memberi kesan kepada kepercayaan rakyat? A trust deficit now?
There is, if you look at the last 5 by-elections they lost, Harapan, right? And even, for instance, DAP, one of the strongest parties which had support from the Chinese, right? But losing Tanjung PI, for instance, was a big blow for DAP. And in terms of the perception, whatever the perception is, something went wrong in terms of deliverables, in terms of communication with the people, in terms of communicating within the cabinet.
Saya akan pulang ke hujah itu, tetapi Datuk Mah, kita membincangkan banyak perkara, bukan saja tentang politik dalam Malaysia Baru, tetapi kehilangan rakyat Malaysia, enforced disappearance, seperti yang dilakukan jawatan kuasa penyelidikan dan sebagainya oleh Suhakam dan Amerika, biasalah Amerika Syarikat, tapi jika mereka melakukan sesuatu ada tindak tanduknya. Pada 4 hari bulan menganugerahkan Susanna Liu sebagai one of the International Women of the Year for 2020. Setiausaha negara, Pompeo sendiri yang memberikan anugerah itu, dan itu antara fokus pada hubungannya kepada kehilangan Pastor Raymond Koh dan juga mungkin saudara Amri Cik Mat dalam konteks itu. Dan ini isu sebenar tentang hak asasi dan sebagainya masih belum terjawab dan kini sudah pun ada berlaku lagi pertukaran. Dan isu itu, kehilangan dua itu juga dikaitkan dengan elemen sensitif fahaman agama, kelompok kepercayaan majoriti. Jadi jika Kerajaan Pakatan Harapan pun tidak boleh menyelesaikan itu, bayangkan perubahan ini dan dengan apa yang berlaku. Datuk Mah.
Yeah, I think the cases of Pastor Raymond Koh and Amri Cik Mat, these are all very unfortunate cases. Just they have not been resolved in that we have not gotten any answers as to what actually happened. The special task force was formed and they were supposed to give their report by end of December. But until now we have not heard what the results are. But I think the fact that the Americans are giving this award to the wife of Pastor Raymond Koh, Susanna Liu, I think it's an attempt to keep the issues alive, in the sense that they recognize that enforced disappearance is a very serious thing, and because it's still an ongoing issue, they are recognizing her for her position that she has taken all this while, and keeping up the quest to find the truth behind this issue. And right now, as you will know, the third case is ongoing, the case of Joshua Hilmi dan istrinya Ruth Setipu. So that is something which again we will see what eventually comes out of it, and of course all this has to be on evidence, based on evidence.
Saudara Ragunas, kes seperti ini is the litmus test untuk negara hukum dan juga peranan institusi. Sekarang dengan peguam negaranya sudah tidak ada lagi, belum lagi dilantik, dengan siapa nak menjadi tempat kerusi panas MACC, Suruhanjaya Pencegahan Rasuah itu, kerana pelbagai kes sedang berlangsung. Beliau juga adalah saksi kepada kes-kes berprofil tinggi ini. Jadi salahkah kalau rakyat berasa gusar? Kerana rakyat dijanjikan penyelesaian kepada perkara-perkara ini. Dan tadi seperti yang Datuk Mah katakan, enforce the superior. Dalam definisi antarabangsa itu ada peranan state ataupun negara, institusi berkuasa.
Yes.
Jadi tolonglah rungkaikan ini.
So kalau kita lihat pada kes Pastor Raymond Koh, dari segi keterangan evidence yang ada, video recording daripada
CCTV rumah.
Kalau kita lihat bagaimana ia dijalankan, the kidnapping ataupun di abduction. Kalau kita lihat very professional. Lebih kurang 14-15 orang yang terlibat. Dan pada saya sungguh heran kalau pihak polis assume it was an kidnapping, and the state is not involved. Wouldn't they be worried that there's a vigilante force out there who can come up and do such things and disappear? Why is there no concern? Pada saya begitu heran kenapa pihak polis tidak risau that there is a vigilante force outside the establishment who is capable of doing such things. Isn't that something they should be worried about as well? And for me, bila tidak ada respons daripada polis berkenaan dengan isu ini, bermakna are they involved? Is there a force within the state which is involved in the abduction? So, and there's no concern apparently. I mean, at the hearing, for instance, of Pastor Raymond Koh, there was no concern by the state that we want to get to the bottom of this. We want to cooperate with you. We are also worried that if there is such a independent force, vigilante force, that can come and do such thing, so organized, what can they do elsewhere as well? So why is there no concern? Tidak ada sebarang interest. There's no there's people are upset that the police can behave in this manner, so blasé about the whole thing. And then in relation to rakyat, kegusaran rakyat berkenaan dengan apa yang berlaku, I think the Prime Minister is under tremendous pressure. Kalau kes-kes profil tinggi ini tidak diteruskan, I think there's going to be a serious issue that this current government will face in the PRU 15. So there is a serious perception, even within UMNO, even within PAS, even within the ruling government, that they want things to be done, and they want it to be proven in court and to proceed with these cases.
Can I just comment on this issue on the letak jawatan oleh Peguam Negara dan MACC? To me, I think I'm quite disappointed that they chose to resign. In fact, for Tan Sri Tommy Thomas to have resigned much earlier on, and now for Latifah Koya to resign. I think they were entrusted with a job to perform. The public expect them to perform their public duties, and I think they should carry on until such time that really situation changes so much that they are asked to leave. But having said that, I think the other more important point is that the prosecution teams, both in the SRC case and in the 1MDB case, I only hope that they will continue with their work. They will not stop prosecuting halfway, because these are cases which the public expect to see a conclusion. If they are guilty, they will be found guilty by the court. If they are not, at least they will be declared innocent and acquitted and discharged by the court. So I think there must be a conclusion, there must be a landing on this. Otherwise, it's always like, hey, what actually happened? It could have been this, it could have been that.
Jelas rakyat mahukan kepastian. People want closure.
Yes.
Tetapi katalah trend domino meletak jawatan ini berterusan, apa akan terjadi pada kes-kes profil tinggi jika pasukan pendakwaan ini mengatakan dulu perjanjian kami dengan peguam negara dulu dan sebagainya, mereka juga ada hak itu. Jadi jika itu berlaku, apa maksudnya?
Yeah. Well, most certainly the government has the authority to appoint, and of course this will be by our King, His Majesty King, to appoint the Attorney General on the advice of the government. So the Attorney General is also the public prosecutor. It's 2-in-1 in our system, and he will have absolutely every right to decide who is to lead the prosecution, whether it's a regular DPPs from Peguam Negara,
Okay.
or as in this case, we have got 2 special prosecutors from the bar. So that's for the new AG, new PP to decide. And if they decide to have a change, he's also entitled to do.
Tapi mereka akan perlukan masa.
Yes, definitely. Perlukan masa, because everything will have to be held back. A new team will come to court and say, look, I will need time to study the documents, and the case is halfway. Goodness, there's a lot of work to be done, you know.
Well, kalau itu adalah keputusan ataupun tindakan peguam negara yang baru, bermakna mesej yang akan disampaikan adalah we are not interested to proceed. We want to withdraw the charges against these high profile cases. So that's a wrong signal to deliver.
Bagaimana kita nak pastikan bahawa, kerana bila berlaku peletakan jawatan dan sebagainya, ada rakyat yang akan bercakap, dan sekarang ada media sosial dan sebagainya, oh maknanya Peguam Negara, Ketua Suruhjaya, SPRM ataupun Chief of MACC ini perlu ada kesejajaran dengan pemerintah eksekutif. Kalau tak ada, tak boleh. Tetapi dalam kes 1MDB, apabila ia membabitkan anggota kerajaan eksekutif yang masih aktif, bagaimana? Kita dah belajar episod itu. Perlu ada pengasingan, perlu diberikan otonomi dan sebagainya. Tapi jika ini berulang seperti ini, saya nak kembali. Ini antara perdebatan saudara Ragunas dengan Syed Saddiq.
Yes, I think again kita lihat balik pada manifesto Pakatan Harapan. Selama 2 tahun, one of the promises was the split in the position of the Attorney General and the public prosecutor. Tidak dilakukan. Seharusnya kalau misalnya perubahan atau pindaan perlembagaan untuk the split of the position of the legal advisor and public prosecutor telah dibuat, tidak akan timbul masalah ini. Sebab isu public prosecutor lain daripada
Attorney General.
That was not done. Similarly with the appointment of the MACC chief, it was supposed to be protected by parliament, appointment to be endorsed, juga tidak dibuat.
Datuk Mah, itu yang saya nak kembali kepada negara hukum dan institusi dan urus tadbir ni. Kerana di Indonesia punya reformasi berdarah di jalan raya, berkorban nyawa untuk pastikan reformasi. Tetapi apabila Presiden Jokowi bersetuju untuk meletakkan kembali kuasa peruntukan kepada KPK ataupun MACC mereka, maka orang turun ke jalanan dan demonstrasi dan lagi ada kehilangan nyawa. Kita ni bagaimana? Kalau ini trendnya, kita nak saksikan institusi yang jelas, yang telus.
Well, the MACC obviously ought to be an independent institution, and they should not be taking directions from any party. And so really they should perform their duties according to the evidence that's available. But I think at the same time, what is very important, and a point that you make, is I think civil society must speak up and support these public officials that are carrying on the work, so that they know that they have the support and they can be able to do the right thing.
Okay. Saya nak tanya tentang gajah di depan mata, the elephant in the room. Many of my non-Malay Muslim friends, they were one of the first to be asking Awani and me. Lepas tu saya juga pernah ada majlis perundingan Melayu di sini, di mana wasiat Raja-Raja Melayu yang ke-7 itu, hak untuk orang Melayu dan hak untuk semua orang berada. Yang amat berhormat Perdana Menteri dalam rayuan kepada rakyat Malaysia, ucapan pertama beliau sebagai PM8, menjanjikan bahawa beliau Perdana Menteri untuk semua. Dan jika itu kesnya, pelaksanaannya itu nanti perlu memberi persepsi sejak dari hari ini sampai ke depan bahawa ini sedang dilaksanakan. Tetapi kalau the politics of representation itu pun sukar, bagaimana nak mengharapkan kebanyakannya adalah Melayu Islam tetapi boleh mewakili Kadazan, boleh mewakili orang Iban, boleh mewakili orang India atau siapa jua yang bukan daripada kelompok majoriti. Bagaimana kerajaan Tan Sri Muhyiddin ini akan membuktikan perkara itu? Kerana itu akan diteliti.
It's very difficult task. Amat sukar. Memandangkan bahawa komposisi Perikatan Nasional adalah Malay Muslim, not a majority even, it's a overwhelming, nearly unanimous grouping. So isu akan timbul juga, dan isu berkenaan dengan the fundamentalism, hudud, all these issues are going to come up again, and it will become issues kan. Dari segi then it will be an effect on the economy as well. If you look at the current state of the economy, we are not doing well, and with the COVID virus as well. Dan dari segi ramalan ekonomi, it's not only us, it's also around the world. We need to work much harder to revive the economy. But with the kemelut politik yang kita melalui sekarang, amat sukar untuk kita come up with a standard or a uniform economic policy for all.
Okay.
So we need to get a very stable government in place.
Okay.
If it's going to be a Malay Muslim 95% government, that's going to be very difficult to govern the country.
Datuk Mah, kita tak boleh lihat Malaysia terpisah, isolated daripada negara-negara lain di dunia. Dan bukti itu jelas di Amerika Syarikat ke, di Eropah ke, di Amerika Selatan ke, di Afrika. Apabila tekanan ekonomi semakin meningkat, apabila politik partisan semakin meninggi sama ada kiri atau kanan, antara yang jadi mangsa pertama adalah hak asasi dan kebebasan. Jadi kita nak minta kearifan Datuk Mah yang melihat seluruh dunia dalam Suhakam ini, bagaimana Tan Sri Muhyiddin boleh bergerak ke depan? Kerana mungkin beliau perlukan the champions of human rights and freedom and liberty to be in the cabinet to ensure in that monopolistic, saya pinjam kata saudara Ragunas itu, untuk pastikan perkara ini.
I think I'm very sad, of course, to know over the years, and we have been independent for so many years, that Malaysian politics is always race-based politics. It is sad because that takes first preference before any other issues are discussed. Sure, we have to look after the economy of the whole country and human rights for all. I think although we may have a very largely predominant Malay party or Malay government in power, I only hope that good sense will prevail, because the leaders must definitely demonstrate that they are leaders for the whole country, not just for one racial group, although there is the majority, big majority racial group. So they must demonstrate the willingness and the wisdom to look after everybody's interests. And looking after human rights interests is definitely a very big agenda, because if you do not have respect for the human rights of the people, people will get very disillusioned, they will be unhappy, and come election time, the government won't find favour with the people.
30 saat terakhir, tolong rumuskan.
So mungkin satu way forward for PM ke-8 adalah melantik lebih ramai birokrat and non-politician ke kabinet supaya multiracial non-politicians, capable people, capable individuals who are economists, who are bankers, and to assist and run the country. Maybe that's the way forward.
Saya tak tahu sama ada saudara Ragunas dan Datuk Mah nama mereka ada dalam kemungkinan itu, tetapi itu yang mereka sampaikan. Kita boleh berbalah politik, tetapi Malaysia harus terjaga. Terima kasih banyak Datuk Mah. Terima kasih saudara Ragunas. Selalunya saya habiskan dengan kata-kata ahli politik, Mandela dan sebagainya. Malam ini saya nak ambillah, terutama kerana undi 18 itu dah diluluskan, cuma tunggu gazet sahaja. So I'm going to take from J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. We are only as strong as we are united, as weak as we are divided. Sekian, terima kasih. InsyaAllah kita jumpa lagi. Thank you very much.